This is a video that shows you how you should be graphing. First, let's start with titles. You have an independent and a dependent variable. The dependent and independent variable should always go on top. So whatever your independent variable and your dependent variable is, that should be in a title so that people know what you are talking about when they're looking at the graph. On the y-axis, you're going to turn your paper and you're going to write your dependent variable. And since your dependent variable is what you measure, make sure you put in parentheses whatever that measurement is. Were you measuring in grams, inches, feet, etc.? At the bottom on the x-axis is where your independent variable goes. Now on this particular sheet, I wouldn't write the independent variable there, and this is why. You're going to need to have room to write your numbers along the x-axis, so that gives you room. So if I make my camera come out a little bit here, at the top you have independent and dependent variable. On the left side, or the y-axis, you have your dv, the y, get it? And then the x-axis. So if you forget, where does the bottom of the x end? At the bottom. That's where your IV always goes, on the x-axis. You have a few numbers that you're going to be using from your rocket launchers. You're going to need to know your control group was 70 feet. Your first experiment, everybody should have had a second experiment. If you had a third or more experiments, include that on your graph. And if you wrote down your final launch that we did outside, which you were supposed to do, even though it's not an average, I want you to include that as well. So you should already know this by now, but the first thing you need to determine, what was your independent variable? What was your dependent variable? Remember, your IV is what you change, and your DV is what you measure. The third thing you need to ask yourself, what type of graph? You have a circle, you have a bar, and you have a line. This one shows time. This one shows comparisons. Of groups of data. And the circle pie graph compares parts of the whole. So it compares parts of the same thing. So the first thing you need to do, and I'm not going to tell you, circle, bar, or a line graph. Which one are you using? What changed? That's a measurement that caused your DV to change. We're not talking about, this is the only hint I give you, the IV, we're not talking about wings, we're not talking about the nose of your cone. So what changed that caused this to change? When you're done, make sure you put your name. You'll put your name to the right side of your graph. Actually, don't do that. I want you to put your name on the back. So turn this over and write your name. And underneath it, write what hour you have. That way when I'm grading it, I don't know whose I'm grading. And then when I get done, I'll write how much you got right. Okay? So if you have any questions, email me.